to day 5 of Coming Home to Yourself. Today is about living your truth, and this part's tricky. This is where the rubber hits the road, and this is what Wild Grace is really about, is not just having the wisdom, not just understanding it up here, but really living it and integrating it into your day-to-day life. And living your truth sounds beautiful and amazing and exciting. But then when it gets to the part that we actually need to step into living our truth, it's terrifying. And it is hard. It's not easy. As I was getting ready this morning, because I'm headed into clinic today, I was, just pondering on what it really means to live your truth. And a couple of things that came to mind is I remember, in this long, never-ending process, that Brené Brown is one of my heroes. And I remember reading in one of her books and her talking about how hard it was for her to say no, to just be able to set clear boundaries and to shift these dynamics that she would do. And so she made a commitment to herself that she had this ring on her finger, that anytime someone would ask her a question, she would take a pause and spin the ring around her finger 3 times before she would answer. And I just remember how powerful that was for me, because I had the same problem. Like, I would act and I would respond, and then I would go, crap, why did I do that again? And so living your truth really means like creating space to step back, to really make conscious decisions, to say, am I going to rush to help this person? Am I going to say yes because I always do? Or am I going to pause and go, what is my soul calling me to right now? Is this really what I want to do right now? And that's a very different experience. And I'm here to hold space for you and tell you that living your truth isn't easy. It's really freaking hard sometimes. And I felt to tell you a little bit about my own experience of living my truth, because I had done a lot of work, and I've been at this like heavily for 20 years, and it had reached a point that I'd been going to therapy, and I had been reading every self-help book on the planet. If you ever want to log into my Audible, I've probably got them all. And I was headed into my second divorce and was just thinking, what in the world? What is happening? And so when the rubber really hit the road, I came to terms that I was going to have to make some really radical changes in order to be able to live this truth that was different than what I'd seen. It was different than what I'd grown up in. And at the end of the day, I did not do it in a glamorous way. It was not Zen. And I realized I needed to get out of the dynamic that I was in. And so I ended up ghosting my entire family. It was terrible. And it was the hardest thing I ever did. And I took this 4-year hiatus to find myself, and I stepped away from loads of relationships. I stepped away from jobs. I stepped away from my husband. We went through a 9-month separation during that time, as I was really trying to figure out, like, what is my truth? What does it mean? Now, please know, I'm not saying it has to look that extreme, but what I am saying is it takes sacrifice to live your truth. It takes stepping out of safety, for sure, and familiarity, and really being willing to step into the unknown. But I think that's what true faith and surrender looks like, right? And so it's really quite remarkable, as it always is, because as we're entering into day 5, I had the most incredible experience happen and come full circle yesterday, because I went through this deep space of separation from all of the people that I love very most. And there was a lot of pain I had to sort out and a lot of struggle. And yesterday, so unexpectedly, I, was given the blessing of about almost a year and a half ago. And it was totally a life gift, God thing that brought me back to reconciling with my family. And so yesterday I was on a phone call with my mom, and she had mentioned that she'd been over at her dear friends and they'd showed her one of my meditations and how sweet it was. And all of a sudden it opened us into this conversation of me just being really raw and honest with her about how interesting it is what shows up and what comes up. And for the first time in my entire life, my mom held me in this space of really listening, and she was able to hear how painful growing up with her was, and growing up in the dynamic that we were in. And every time in the past when I've ever tried to talk to her about my pain or my struggle, I think it would trigger so much pain and struggle in her too, that she would go to this place of wanting to fix it or wanting to change it. And that's honestly never been what I needed. I didn't need her to be different. I didn't need her to change. I just needed her, wanted her to just hold space for me, to just see me, to just hear me, to just feel like she was really listening. And yesterday, she didn't just do it once. She called me back later and said, "I've really sat with what you've told me today, and I just want you to know it was so hard. And you weren't seen, and we didn't show up for you, and I really, really see it, and I just want you to know that I love you." And it was so wild to have that happen, because I've genuinely reached a place where I didn't need it anymore. And there was no anger. It was the most beautiful thing, because she was so not defensive and I had no anger towards her. But it was magical to see that we could be that honest and that transparent. And it was amazing for me to be able to sit in this space and go, this is what doing the work looks like. This is what it feels like to be freed up from a really, really dysfunctional and challenging childhood, to get to be that honest. And that type of transparency and that type of honesty only comes from doing the work, from making really hard shifts, from getting super uncomfortable. And the one thing she kept saying to me over and over again yesterday was, "I just feel so grateful and thank you for being brave enough to talk to me so honestly." And that's the invitation today. That when you live your truth, it takes tremendous courage to step into this place and be honest and raw and authentic. But the most magical moments in transformation come when you least expect it, when you just are willing to step into that space. And so today I invite you to close your eyes, and as you settle in, feel how good it feels to settle in, the ways you're learning to connect with you and how beautiful you are and how worth connecting you are, and the things that you've noticed this week and the awarenesses you're having. And as you take a deep breath into your belly and settle into this space, scanning your body, softening those places that hold the tightness and the fear and the uncertainty, and just letting it all soften. And as you soften into it, gently ask yourself to show you this beautiful soul and body of yours, to show you what is a truth that you've been afraid to speak, or that you've been afraid to step into because it's scary and uncomfortable and unfamiliar. But you can feel your soul calling you there. And as you take it in, take a moment and ask your soul and your body to show you, what would your life look like if you began living that truth? If you really took that leap of faith and began living that truth that your soul's calling you to. And as you see the way it would shift your life in the day-to-day, in the moment by moment, take another deep breath in and just feel how worthy and how worth you are to be living that truth. If you need a permission slip, today is your full-blown permission slip. It's okay that it's scary. It's okay that it's freaking hard. And it's okay that you don't know what it's going to look like or what to expect. But what I can promise you is that life's holding the same miracles for you that it held for me yesterday. That when we're brave enough to step into that truth, when we're brave enough to stand up for who we really are and who we're guided to become, life will always hold you in that space. Because you are loved, and you are seen, and you are held, and it's okay to show up for yourself. So today I'm sending you lots of courage, lots of strength, and a big, giant reminder that you're worth showing up for. Have a beautiful day.